This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. And today's episode, we focused in on replacement window options and how to get the best bang for your buck. But we're not done talking just yet. It's time for our Writer's Block segment, and we intend to get squeaky clean here as we get to the bottom of tricky window washing jobs. Every week here on Writer's Block, we welcome one of the creators of Angie's List's online and magazine content onto the show to talk about the stories they're writing. And today we're happy to welcome senior writer Brent Glasgow. Brent joined us earlier this year to chat about pools, and he covers a variety of home improvement topics for Angie's List. He's a graduate of the Indiana University School of Journalism at IUPUI and worked for 4 years in sports and news radio before entering the print world. Brent, welcome back to Chat with the Experts.
Well, thanks for having me back.
You know, when we had you on the first time, it was right around the start of baseball season. And of course, you and I are both huge Kansas City Royals fans, and the team got off to a really hot start. And I'd like to, attribute that to our discussion on the show. But now they're struggling a little bit. So I felt like it was time to bring you back on and maybe pump a little life back into the team. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
That's a fine idea. When they made a couple moves right before the trade deadline, I don't like really messing with chemistry, but while it's worked out with Ben Zobrist, Johnny Cueto hasn't worked out so far. But I'd like to think it's all going to come around, and a month from now we're talking World Series.
Yeah, and I'd like to think Johnny Cueto is going to really be inspired by this conversation today that we're having as he
right.
listens in before his next start.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to be talking about a few of the articles you've written recently, and one of them is probably one of my favorite articles this year at Angie's List. It's about window washing, and it sounds weird because that can be a really boring topic, but you really spice things up. You had this piece on high-rise window washers. Where did that idea come from?
Well, really, in my first week there at Angie's List, I was thinking about story ideas that we could tie to locally here in Indianapolis. And it just kind of came to me as a service, why not do a story on the guys who go up on these high rises and clean them? And then it kind of led me to the JW Marriott in downtown Indy, a very unique structure. And I thought, well, let's track these guys down, try to get on top of this building and see what we can come up with.
So when you were putting the article together, you just spoke with the team that handles the JW Marriott? Like, who did you talk to?
Well, the first thing that I did was track down who the company was, who's in charge of that, and it was S&K Building Services here in Indy. And so once I got the green light from them that we could come and work with their guys and maybe send a camera down with them, then I got in contact with Phil Ray, the GM at the JW Marriott, just to find out if we could do that on property. And I also figured he would have to go through some corporate channels to make that happen. But really, it all came together in a very quick period of time.
Yeah, and for people outside of Indianapolis who listen to the show, who maybe aren't familiar, when we talk about the JW Marriott, give us a little background on this building.
Well, sure. It was finished in 2011, and really when it was done, it transformed the skyline of Indianapolis. It's 34 stories and has over 7,000 blue glass windows that weigh 800 pounds apiece. So if you've been to Indianapolis since 2011, you really know the difference that it's made in the skyline here.
Yeah, it's a huge building, and it's almost all window, which makes this the perfect building to kind of test this out and see what goes on. Now, you traveled on site with them. I mean, did you go up on the building?
We did. Phil, the GM there, took me and Mike Fender and Brandon Smith of our photo team up to the roof. And really the first thing when you get up there that you realize how quiet it is, 34 stories up. But the one thing that we didn't realize was how the guys got down. We kind of envisioned them going down in a rather large lift, but they're really lowered on tiny little seats that they get into, and they're strapped in, and they lower them down one at a time, and they kind of swing back and forth a little bit. And, it was very unique. And so Mike got with the crew boss, Eric Miller, and just asked him straight up, can I connect a GoPro video camera to your apparatus there? And he right away said yes. And he came up with a lot of fantastic photos, which is really why we did the story initially.
Yeah. Now, as you can imagine, this is not a job for everyone. So how do they go about finding the right people for this? I mean, is there a certain type of person that's just more apt to climb and scale down the side of a building?
Well, yeah, it's a unique breed. I mean, I compare it to what it would take to be an Army Ranger jumping out of helicopters. And Eric, the crew boss there, said, and he put it well, he said, if you don't like it on your first day, you're never going to like it.
Yeah.
So you find out pretty quick, and some guys come and go. Eric had been doing it for 20 years, but every once in a while when someone will leave, they'll come to him and be like, can you find anybody else for us? And he knows guys from different markets who've done it.
Okay.
And maybe quit for a little while, but are just kind of pulled back to it. The money's decent, and, there's always work available, seemingly.
Yeah. So on a more practical level, what were some of the window washing tips that you were able to find from these guys?
Well, sure. They said safety is the top priority, no matter what the job is, and also to never neglect regular cleanings, and don't use harsh chemicals ever on glass, and be sure that you don't use razor blades to try to remove any difficult debris off of a window surface.
Yeah, you can really scratch it up. I'm sure we've all seen people do it before. We've tried it ourselves. It's not a good idea. To finish up on that part of the conversation, how do you feel? Are you ready to hop in a seat and scale down the building now?
Absolutely not. I just peeking over the edge, it was crazy. And just to imagine, if you're in that chair, it goes beyond getting over a fear of heights. You have to be ultimately confident in the equipment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have no chance of doing it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I have no chance. I'm not even going to try. On a very different note, you recently put together an article asking the question, are energy vampires real? Brent, I got to ask you, what is an energy vampire?
Well, sure. And I hadn't heard of it before doing the story. And basically, it's any device in your home that still drains power while it's plugged in, but not turned on. And you can count them up. You have around, the average home has 20 to 40 of these in your home, and they really do add up when you put them all together.
Yeah, so that was the consensus, is that there are certain appliances that are costing us money when they're not in use?
Absolutely. The U.S. Department of Energy says around 10% of your energy bill can be attributed to these. And really, the number one culprit is the DVR. The DVR will cost you around $50 a year just when it's turned off. Forget when it's turned on, but when it's turned off. And cable and satellite TV boxes, they're also right up there. They cost Americans around $2 billion annually when they're turned off.
Wow.
So a few others, wireless computer routers, desktop computers, TVs, audio systems, they're all draining juice when they're not turned on.
Yeah, I can imagine somebody listening to this and thinking, well, gosh, does this mean every time I leave my home I need to go around unplugging everything? I mean, what are the practical things that you could do to kind of help this situation out?
Well, since a lot of them are going to be entertainment center based, it's recommended that you put them on a power strip, all on the same one, and then you can turn it off each time that it's not in use. Now, as you probably know, that comes with a price, because when you power back up, odds are your satellite or TV system, the channel menu takes a while to load. So if you're turning that off every time, you're going to end up having to wait for a fair amount of time, sometimes a half an hour for that to come back on. And also, if you try it with the wireless router, sometimes it also takes a long time for that to become effective and power back up as well.
Yeah, it's definitely... you have to make some tough decisions there about what's going to be most important to you. I know there's different items around my home, like the computer, the router, things that are always plugged in, and I rarely go about unplugging. Are there certain items around your home that you always find are plugged in?
Well, I recently did away with cables, so I don't have to worry about the DVR anymore. Okay. But for a while, I tried turning off the router when I would go to sleep at night, and then turn it back on maybe when I got home from work the next day. But then I found that I was going to have to wait. It just didn't work appropriately when I would get home. So now I just leave it on all the time. So sure, it's costing me money, and yeah, I guess I've decided it's worth the cost over convenience.
Yeah, you almost have to make it kind of out of sight, out of mind in some ways, unless you really want to go through the hassle of. And some people will. It may just be someone more patient than you and I who wants to go about waiting for things to boot up again. But I know that around your home, the TV will be getting some use this this October when the Royals are back in the playoffs. So
certainly, and I know last year we had to put in a lot of late nights.
I know.
I'd never watched so much sports programming after 1 a.m. that I did during the playoffs last year.
Well, let's hope it's just as fun as it was last fall. Brent, I want to thank you so much for coming back on the show today, and go Royals.
All right, absolutely.
You can check out Brent's articles and a whole lot more by going to angieslist.com, and from there you can get reviews and ratings on service providers in your area. If you join today, use the promo code WIBC40. You're going to get 40% off an annual membership, and annual memberships are under $10 for the whole year. It's really a deal you can't beat. Check it out. angieslist.com. Click the Join Now button. Another big thank you to Ryan of Southwest Exteriors for coming on the show today. As always, if you missed anything at all, you can catch up on our past episodes by visiting our website or downloading our Chat with the Experts podcast on iTunes. Just pull up iTunes, search Chat with the Experts. You'll find everything you need. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. I'm Kyle Hawk, and we'll catch you next time.
Do you love a good bargain? Angie'sList.com showcases popular deals from highly rated local companies so you can save time and money on the home and health services you need most. Remodeling your kitchen? Painting your house? Cleaning your carpet? We've got a deal for that. Angie's List members even have access to exclusive discounts, up to 80%. Don't waste another day or another dollar. Start shopping now at Angie'sList.com.